The modern world offers more stimulation than the ancient Stoics could have ever imagined. Constant notifications, endless comparisons, manufactured outrage at your fingertips, and yet the internal struggle remains timeless. Emotions rise like storms: fear, anger, desire, shame. They brew within, often faster than we can name them. But here's the truth: a Stoic does not ignore emotion. He learns to master it. This video isn't about suppressing who you are. It's about awakening to what you can become. We'll walk through 10 powerful Stoic principles, not just to understand your emotions, but to own them. To no longer be a puppet of your reactions, but a sculptor of your inner state. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by emotion, if you've acted impulsively and regretted it, or remained silent when you should have spoken, then stay with me. What you're about to hear isn't theory. It's practice. It's personal transformation through timeless philosophy. And if this resonates with you already, consider joining this growing community of grounded minds. Tap that like, subscribe, and share this journey forward. Someone else out there might just need it more than you know. Now let's begin where all mastery starts. Choice. Chapter 1. Choosing wisely. Every emotion begins with a seed. A perception. A judgment. Something happens, someone speaks. A door slams, a message is left unread, and your mind interprets it. Before the heart races, before the hands tremble, before the voice rises or the eyes drop, there is a choice, and though it lasts a flicker, a fraction of a moment, this is where your power lives. Choosing wisely is the foundation of Stoic mastery. The Stoics taught that it is not events themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. That is not just a quote, it's an instruction manual. You are not angry because someone insulted you. You are angry because you decided that their words matter. You are not hurt because someone ghosted you. You are hurt because you've told yourself a story that you were not enough. Now pause. Think about the gravity of that. If you are the author of the meaning, then you can rewrite it. This doesn't mean you don't feel, but it means you insert space between stimulus and response. That space, the Stoics would call it reason, or judgment, is where wisdom breathes. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Most of our pain is not caused by reality, but by the meaning we slap onto it. Imagine you receive criticism. The average person takes it personally, feels shame, becomes defensive. But a Stoic? He holds the words in the light of reason and asks, is this true? Is this useful? If it is, he applies it like medicine. If it isn't, he sets it down like trash. He does not drink poison to please the hand that poured it. Choosing wisely also means examining the lens through which you view life. If your lens is tinted by insecurity, you will see threat where there is none. If it's colored by ego, you will see disrespect in every disagreement. The Stoic lens is clear, calm, and curious. It seeks truth, not validation, and that alone can spare you from countless emotional storms. Think of your emotions like fire. Choice is the oxygen. Without feeding them the fuel of unexamined judgments, they cannot burn out of control. So the work begins in stillness, in questioning, in deliberate thought. What belief lies beneath the feeling? Is it true? Is it helpful? These 3 questions can save you from 1,000 spirals. But make no mistake, this discipline is not easy. It is not natural to pause in the heat of anger or in the ache of jealousy. That's why this is training, not magic. Mastery begins with the smallest of victories. One breath, one reframing, one refusal to let a single moment hijack your day. The next time emotion rises, try this. Silently say, I have a choice. Say it not as a defense, but as a declaration of power. This emotion is a visitor. You are the home. You decide who stays. So here's something I'd like you to reflect on, or even write in the comments if it calls to you. What is one emotion you've let control your choices in the past? And what new story could you write about it now? Your comment might just help someone else recognize their own. That's the power of shared insight. That's how we choose wisely, together. Chapter 2. Releasing Control. Then, if Chapter 1 was about claiming the choices that shape your emotions, this chapter takes you to an even harder truth. Some things are not yours to control, and the sooner you accept this, the lighter your emotional burden becomes. The Stoics separated the world into two categories: the things within your control and the things outside of it. Simple in theory, brutal in practice. Why? Because your ego wants to control everything. How people see you, how they feel about you, how outcomes unfold. But here's the paradox. The more you try to control the uncontrollable, the more you suffer. The more you let go, the more powerful you become. Let's take relationships. You cannot force someone to stay, to love you a certain way, to change into who you wish they were. You can express yourself, honor your values, show up authentically, but beyond that, their heart is not your jurisdiction. And trying to govern it will only leave you exhausted and resentful. Releasing control doesn't mean apathy. It means focus. It means energy is redirected toward what is yours. Your thoughts, your effort, your boundaries. It is the serenity of saying, let them think what they think. Let the storm pass. I remain unchanged. Now, this kind of inner steadiness isn't inherited. It's built. It's the result of repeated moments where you felt the impulse to cling, to fix, to force. And instead, you released. You stepped back. You breathed. You remembered who you are. The need for control often comes from fear. Fear of being hurt. Fear of being left. Fear of failing. So to release control is also to confront your fears, not by overpowering them, but by no longer obeying them. When you release control, you're not saying, I don't care. You're saying, I trust myself to handle whatever comes. The Stoic does not panic when plans fall apart. He adapts. He does not beg when love withdraws. He lets go. He does not chase what flees or cling to what fades. His hands are open, not because he is indifferent, but because he understands nothing real is ever lost by force. What is truly aligned will remain without grasping. You've probably had moments where letting go felt like death, like surrendering meant defeat. But I invite you to consider something. What if surrender is actually strength? What if in releasing control you are not giving up, but rising above? There's a quiet dignity in this, a peace that those who grasp and scheme can never know. And when you finally feel it, that grounded detachment, you realize something even deeper. Freedom was never about getting what you want. It was about no longer being enslaved to the outcome. So here is your invitation. If you feel brave enough, write this in the comments. I release what is not mine to carry. Let that be your vow, not just to me, not just to the others who may read it, but to yourself. You are not here to control the tides. You are here to learn how to sail. Chapter 3. Defining Boundaries. To master emotion, you must first master space, the invisible space between yourself and the world, between your needs and their demands, between your peace and their chaos. And that space is defined not by luck, not by personality, but by boundaries. A Stoic's emotional power does not come from detachment alone. It comes from discernment. It comes from knowing where the self ends and where the external begins. Boundaries are not walls. Walls are reactive, built in fear. Boundaries are intentional, built in wisdom. They are invitations for respect and simultaneously declarations of self-worth. Without boundaries, you do not become more generous or open-hearted. You become scattered, drained, contorted into a shape someone else prefers. And worse, you start resenting others for the very things you allow. In the Stoic worldview, there is a sacred realm called prohairesis, the domain of your choices, your values, your inner sovereignty. No one can invade this domain unless you open the gates. And every time you say yes to something that violates your peace, you carve a doorway into your own mind and leave it unguarded. The truth is, emotional chaos often disguises itself in the language of kindness. You think you're being loving when you avoid hard conversations. You think you're being noble when you keep giving more than you can. You think you're strong when you tolerate what chips away at your spirit. But there is no Stoic strength in being a doormat. The sage is not a sponge, soaking up everything without protest. The sage is a flame, warming those who come close, but never letting himself be consumed. Defining boundaries begins with asking the most uncomfortable of questions. What have I allowed out of fear of being alone? What have I tolerated because I wanted to be liked? Where have I betrayed myself just to avoid conflict? And perhaps most importantly, what am I teaching others about how to treat me by how I treat myself? You cannot expect the world to know your limits if you've never honored them aloud. Silence is often mistaken for permission. And so, the Stoic must cultivate not only the courage to say no, but the clarity to know why. No to manipulation. No to emotional blackmail. No to being the emotional trash bin for people who refuse to take responsibility for their moods. But boundaries are not only what you deny, they are also what you protect. Your time, your rest, your focus, your sacred routines. These are not luxuries. They are necessities for emotional stability. You cannot be a calm sea for others while you're a storm inside, and you will never find inner peace in a life where everything can reach you. In setting boundaries, you will be misunderstood. People may call you cold, harsh, distant, especially those who benefited from your lack of them. Let them. A Stoic does not adjust his integrity to appease the fragile egos of others. He lives according to nature, and nature does not beg for approval. Remember this, it is not cruel to protect your energy. It is wise. It is not rude to demand emotional maturity from those around you. It is necessary. And it is not selfish to choose peace over performance. It is Stoic. So now, take this thought with you. Reflect on it. And if you feel so inclined, share in the comments. What's one boundary you've always known you needed to set, but haven't? What would change if you finally did? Let this be a space where strength is not just spoken, but modeled. Where boundaries are not barriers to love, but the foundation of it. Because you cannot teach the world how to treat you with words alone. You teach them with your presence, your standards, and your stillness when those are tested. Chapter 4. Expressing thoughtfully. Thoughtfully. There is a silent tragedy in this world. Millions walking through life bursting at the seams with emotions they've never learned to name, much less to express. Anger bottled until it explodes, hurt swallowed until it poisons, love restrained until it rots into regret. And in this silence, relationships decay, potential dies, and the self withers. To master your emotions is not to become mute, it is to become articulate. The Stoic is not cold, he is clear. He does not erupt, he does not retreat. He communicates not from a place of panic, but of poise, and in doing so, he transforms tension into connection, pain into understanding, and conflict into calm. But how? How does one speak from such a place when the storm is rising inside? It begins with one simple truth. Your feelings are real, but they are not always right. A feeling is a messenger, not a master. Before you speak it aloud, you must sit with it. Hold it. Ask, what is this emotion trying to show me? What value has been touched? What story am I believing right now, and is it true? The Stoic does not speak to discharge pain. He speaks to illuminate. He seeks truth over reaction. So he does not say, "You made me feel worthless." He says, "When that happened, I felt overlooked. Here's what I need to feel safe again." He does not say, "You always do this." He says, "When this pattern repeats, it affects my trust. Let's talk about it." Do you feel the difference? One approach attacks, the other invites. One seeks control, the other seeks clarity. And that clarity is what builds bridges instead of burning them. Thoughtful expression also demands presence. Most people do not actually listen. They wait to reply. They listen through filters of fear, pride, or defense. A Stoic listens not to defend his ego, but to understand the landscape, and then he speaks, not in haste, but in harmony with the truth he has observed. This is why silence is such a vital part of expression. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of integration. The silence where you sort what's yours from what isn't, where you transmute raw emotion into reasoned insight. Then when the words come, they carry weight, not weaponry. They build rather than wound. You will not always get it right. You will speak too soon, or not soon enough. But that is part of the refinement. The Stoic path is not about perfection. It is about practice. Emotional articulation is a discipline, a muscle, one that strengthens each time you pause before you speak. Each time you choose precision over projection. Each time you put love into structure instead of fury into sound. And here's something else that many overlook. Expressing thoughtfully includes positive emotion too. Tell the people you love that you love them. Speak admiration. Show gratitude. Don't let your silence make them wonder. Don't let your restraint create distance. Stoicism is not coldness. It's courage. And sometimes, the greatest act of courage is honest affection. There is a kind of quiet power in looking someone in the eye and telling the truth, not the one shaped by pain or pride, but the one purified by reflection. That is the voice of someone who does not fear his emotions, nor let them rule him. That is the voice of the Stoic. Now I'll leave you with this thought. What's one emotion you've struggled to express well? And what would change in your life if you found the right words for it? Share your reflection in the comments. You may be surprised how many others are still seeking those same words. And in writing yours, you may just help them find theirs. Chapter 5. Building Resilience. Resilience is not a gift. It is not a trait you're born with or a secret code passed down through bloodlines. Resilience is earned, forged, tempered, like steel in the white heat of hardship. And the Stoic understands, if he is to master his emotions, he must first become unbreakable, not in body but in spirit. But do not mistake this for the hardened shell of indifference. True resilience is not about armoring yourself against the world. It is about developing the inner strength to face the storm without losing your center. To bend without breaking, to fall without quitting, to be hurt deeply, authentically, painfully, and still rise, clear-eyed and open-hearted. You are not tested by how you act when everything is easy. You are revealed in how you stand when nothing makes sense. The Stoics knew that adversity was the true mirror. Marcus Aurelius wrote that fire feeds on obstacles, that what stands in the way becomes the way. This wasn't poetic exaggeration. It was a mindset forged in war, loss, illness, betrayal. He lived it. So must we. Modern life, for all its conveniences, has not made us tougher. In many ways, it has made us softer, more reactive, more entitled to ease, more brittle when discomfort arises. But life will not coddle you. The world does not bend to your expectations. So you must build a mind that does not shatter every time something breaks. Resilience begins when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" There's an emotional agility to this, a power in moving from despair to determination, from reaction to reflection. The Stoic does not indulge in self-pity. He does not drown in blame. He sits with the pain. He studies it. He extracts the lesson, and then he moves. Even if slowly, even if shakily, but always forward. One of the most overlooked aspects of resilience is how deeply it is tied to identity. If you believe that hardship makes you weaker, you will shrink. But if you believe that hardship carves depth into your character, you will grow. You will not run from trials. You will welcome them as sculptors of your soul. Think of the oak tree. It does not pray for less wind. It grows deeper roots. The same must be true for you. Emotional mastery is not about evading pain. It is about training the mind to remain rooted when the pain arrives. You must learn how to calm yourself within chaos, to breathe when the world tightens, to observe when your instincts scream, to say, "I will not let this moment define me. I will define myself through this moment." There is a quiet form of strength that Stoicism celebrates, one that doesn't parade itself, but reveals itself in the middle of difficulty. When you are disappointed and still show up with integrity, when you are grieving and still offer kindness, when you are exhausted but refuse to complain, that is resilience. That is character. It is easy to be composed when the waters are calm, but resilience is built in the storm. When nothing external encourages you to be steady, but you remain steady anyway. And over time, you begin to trust yourself. You realize that you can survive more than you fear. You can endure more than you imagined. And not only that, you can thrive in the very spaces that once broke you. So here is what I invite you to share in the comments. What is one challenge that nearly broke you, but ultimately shaped you into someone stronger? There is power in telling your story, and someone somewhere may need your strength more than you know. Resilience isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It whispers. Keep going. Chapter 6. Centering yourself. In a world that spins faster each day, where your attention is fought for, your emotions manipulated, your identity diluted by noise, the greatest act of rebellion may be this: to become still, to center yourself, to withdraw, not in retreat, but in recollection, to remember who you are beneath the layers the world keeps trying to pile onto you. Centering yourself is the Stoics' way of returning home. It is not self-care as marketed by wellness brands. It is not indulgence, not escape. It is a discipline, a sacred practice, a daily pilgrimage back to your own mind where the clutter of the external is cleared, and what remains is truth, bare, quiet and unshakable. The ancient Stoics began each day with reflection. They ended each night with self-examination. This was not ritual for its own sake. It was a lifeline. In the chaos of empire, of war, of betrayal and power, they understood if they did not return to their inner compass, they would be lost to the storms around them. You must do the same. Ask yourself, where am I leaking energy? Whose chaos am I carrying? What emotions are truly mine? And which ones have been implanted by the world around me? The media, the scrolling, the shouting, the comparisons, the noise. If you do not center yourself daily, you will become emotionally porous. Everyone's mood will affect you. Every slight will disturb you. You will be hijacked by every headline, seduced by every distraction, consumed by every perceived offense. That is not stoicism. That is emotional slavery. But when you are centered, truly centered, you become like the eye of the storm. Everything may swirl around you, but inside there is stillness. Inside there is that space is where reason lives. That space is where love lives too. Not the frantic love that clings, not the insecure love that pleads, but the grounded love that radiates, even when unreturned, even when unacknowledged. Because it is not about outcome, it is about alignment. Centering yourself also means creating rituals, anchors that keep you steady in the flux of life. Maybe it's your morning journaling, your evening walk, silence before sleep, reading philosophy by candlelight, holding your own gaze in the mirror and asking, am I being who I said I'd be? These aren't luxuries. They are necessities. Because without them, your inner world becomes a reaction to the outer one. You cannot pour from an agitated cup, and you cannot access your deeper wisdom while you're scrolling, comparing, rushing, and complaining. There is a powerful calm that emerges when you start to trust your own rhythm. When you no longer measure your life by what others are doing. When you no longer seek validation in performance. When your center becomes your compass, and not the chaos around you. The world may still provoke you, but you'll return to breath. They may misunderstand you, but you'll return to purpose. You may falter, but you will return. Again and again and again, until returning becomes your nature. This is what it means to live from your center. It is not a place of withdrawal. It is a place of power, of vision, of rootedness in values so deep, no external wave can wash them away. So let this be your quiet commitment. Write it, if it helps ground you. I return to myself. I trust the center. Let those words settle in your mind like stones at the bottom of a clear lake. The world will try to pull you in 1,000 directions, but the Stoic only moves in one, inward, then outward, always from the center. Chapter 7. Confronting Fears. Fear is a shapeshifter. It does not always announce itself in trembling hands or racing hearts. Sometimes it wears the mask of perfectionism, or the armor of anger, or the stillness of avoidance. It hides in the excuses we repeat, the conversations we delay, the paths we never take. Fear is not just a feeling. It is a story, one that if left unexamined writes your life in invisible ink. The Stoic did not deny fear. He studied it. He did not declare himself fearless, but rather sought to understand the inner landscape where fear lives, and to trace its roots until its power dissolved. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Fear, then, is not the enemy. Misperception is. So what is fear, truly? It is the anticipation of suffering. A future imagined, not yet real, but real enough to paralyze you in the present. The mind rushes forward, constructing worst-case scenarios, predicting heartbreak, humiliation, failure, and before anything even happens, you are already wounded by your own imagination. The Stoic sees through this. He brings fear out of the shadows and into the light of reason. He asks, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of it? And what would happen if I faced it anyway? Most fear withers under inspection. The thing we avoid, the difficult conversation, the bold decision, the vulnerable moment, often carries far less danger than the mental weight we assign it. Fear is sustained by avoidance. It feeds on silence and shrinks under scrutiny. But confronting fear is not just about courage. It is about clarity. The Stoic knows that many fears are inherited, taught by culture, reinforced by family, echoed by media. You fear disapproval, not because it harms you, but because you've been conditioned to see it as a threat. You fear failure, not because it defines you, but because you've been taught that achievement equals worth. The work, then, is to deconstruct these myths, to separate genuine danger from socially manufactured anxiety. Fire burns. Yes, a lion may kill. Certainly. But the judgment of a stranger? The delay of a dream? The closing of a door? These are not mortal threats. They are invitations to grow. Still, confronting fear is not a one-time act. It is a lifestyle. A discipline, a mindset you must choose again and again. You will never become so enlightened that fear disappears, but you can become so grounded that it no longer controls you. You can feel fear rise, acknowledge its presence, and move anyway. Speak anyway. Try anyway. Love anyway. One powerful Stoic practice is premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This means taking time to imagine the worst-case scenario in vivid detail, not to catastrophize, but to desensitize. You imagine losing the job, the partner, the security, not because you want to suffer, but because you want to remember that even if those things vanish, you remain, you survive, you adapt, and when you do this often enough, fear begins to lose its grip. Because now, your mind has rehearsed resilience. You are no longer caught off guard by adversity. You have already shaken its hand in thought. Fear also thrives in isolation. You tell yourself you're the only one who feels this way, that others are braver, bolder, less haunted. But that, too, is illusion. Every soul wrestles with fear. The difference is, some wrestle privately, while others transform it publicly into strength. Let this be your reminder. There is no shame in being afraid. The only shame is letting it rule your life. Confronting fear does not mean erasing it. It means walking toward it with eyes wide open, heart steady, mind anchored. It means choosing expansion over comfort, growth over familiarity, truth over safety. So I'll ask you now and invite you to share in the comments, if it feels right, what is one fear you've carried in silence? And what would it mean to release its hold on you? Name it, bring it out. Let the light of awareness begin the work of release, because the Stoic is not the man who never feels fear. He is the one who moves forward, despite it. Chapter 8, Cultivating Strength. Strength is not what we've been sold. It's not the loudest man in the room, the one with the firmest handshake or the most followers. Strength in the Stoic sense is quiet, composed, rooted not in dominance, but in discipline. It is a strength of character, not performance. And in a world obsessed with appearances, that kind of strength is revolutionary. Cultivating strength is not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming immovable in what matters. It's about developing the spine to stay true when the winds of life try to bend you in every direction. To master your emotions, you must become strong enough to feel fully without being ruled. There's a misconception, especially among men, that strength means suppression. That you must lock everything away, never weep, never shake, never doubt. But that's not Stoic strength. That's fear in armor. Real strength is the willingness to stand in the middle of your humanity and not flinch. To say, yes, I feel this. Yes, it hurts. But I will not break my values in response to it. The Stoic cultivates strength the way a sculptor shapes marble, with patience, with vision, with consistency. Each action, each decision, each moment of restraint is a strike of the chisel. You do not become fawn in an instant. You become through repetition. Think of the strength it takes to stay kind when someone mocks you, to stay silent when provoked, to forgive when wronged, to ask for help when pride says no. This is the weightlifting of the soul, invisible, exhausting, transformative. You will not always succeed. You will react when you wish you had paused. You will say too much or too little, but this is not failure, it is feedback. The Stoic path is one of gentle correction, of noticing your moments of weakness not as shameful but as invitations to grow deeper. You must also understand that cultivating strength means resisting the urge to outsource your self-worth. You don't hand it to lovers, to achievements, to likes, to praise. You build it internally, brick by brick, value by value, so that even when the applause stops, you remain whole. Strength is also about stability. Emotional turbulence is often a result of inconsistency in your habits, your thoughts, your grounding principles. The Stoic brings rhythm to the chaos. He wakes up and revisits his values. He journals. He meditates. He reflects. This rhythm, this returning, is where strength is sustained. And perhaps most importantly, cultivating strength means embracing challenge. Not seeking comfort above all, but discomfort that refines. Like a muscle must tear to grow, the soul must be tested to strengthen. You will not find Stoic strength in avoidance. You will find it in adversity, in showing up, again and again, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. This strength also makes room for softness. There is no contradiction in being both powerful and gentle. The strongest presence in the room is often the one who speaks least, but sees most. The one who responds, not reacts. Who radiates calm, but never compromises principle. So let me offer you this reflection. If you wish to share it in the comments, do. Where in your life are you being called to become stronger? Not louder, not tougher, but truer. Your insight may hold a mirror for someone else to see themselves clearly. Perhaps for the first time. Remember this: strength is not a destination. It is a practice, a posture, a quiet fire that you tend daily. Not to burn others, but to stay warm, clear, and lit from within. You do not find this strength. You become it. Chapter 9. Embracing life fully. The Stoic does not seek to escape life. He does not hide from its mess, its pain, its impermanence. On the contrary, he turns toward it fully, unapologetically, with his eyes wide open and his heart unguarded. To master your emotions is not to mute them. It is to open yourself so completely to reality that you no longer flinch at its texture. You no longer contract in fear, nor expand in indulgence. You simply live, and you live with presence. Embrace is a powerful word. It means to hold something close, not reluctantly, but willingly, to accept what is offered without resistance. The Stoic embrace is not passive. It is an active posture, a welcoming of life as it is, not as you wish it were. And herein lies the root of so much emotional turmoil. The war between what is and what we hoped would be. But when you stop resisting, when you stop demanding the world bend to your preference, something profound happens. You begin to see beauty in the very things you once avoided. The silence you feared becomes a sanctuary. The loss you once mourned becomes a lesson. Even grief becomes a form of praise, a sign that you dared to love deeply, to care greatly, to be fully present. Marcus Aurelius said, "Accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to the health of the universe." That is not fatalism. It is not giving up. It is a higher trust that everything, even the pain, serves your growth if you receive it well. But embracing life fully means embracing its transience. Everything you love, everything you possess, everyone you know, they will all change or end. The Stoic does not turn away from this. He holds it close. He practices memento mori, remembering death, not to become grim, but to become grateful. To stop sleepwalking through life and start seeing every breath as a gift. What would change in your life if you truly believed it was all temporary? How much more tender would you be with your words, your time, your attention? How much less anger would you carry, knowing that even the person who wronged you will one day vanish into the same silence that awaits us all? To embrace life fully, you must stop trying to curate it. This world is not a museum for your comfort. It is a battlefield, a garden, a forge. There will be moments of ecstasy and moments of despair, and the Stoic walks through both with the same posture, grounded, present, ready. Ready for joy without clinging, ready for loss without collapse. This is the emotional maturity so few ever reach, not because it is hidden, but because it requires letting go of illusions, illusions of permanence, of fairness, of control, and in their place, something better arises: clarity, acceptance, peace. One of the most liberating Stoic ideas is that you can endure anything that is part of nature. That means this heartbreak, you were built to survive it. This failure, you were made to learn from it. This uncertainty, you were born into it. Nothing that befalls you is foreign to your soul, only unfamiliar. To embrace life is also to embrace your emotions, not as enemies, but as signals. You do not run from them. You do not drown in them. You hold them like a teacher's hand and ask, "What are you trying to show me?" Then, when the message is clear, you release it. So I ask you this, and I mean it sincerely. What part of life have you been resisting? And what would it feel like to finally embrace it? Share your truth in the comments if you feel called to. That act alone can shift your relationship with it. Because the Stoic does not avoid life. He walks through it, eyes forward, heart open, fully alive. Chapter 10. Standing Independent. If the final step of emotional mastery could be summed in one image, it would be this: a man or a woman, standing alone, not lonely, not bitter, but rooted, calm, complete, and not because the world has given them everything they want, but because they have realized, finally, they are enough without it. To stand independent is not to reject others. It is to no longer require them to feel whole. It is to enjoy love, but not beg for it. To value friendship, but not be afraid to walk away from it. To walk beside others, but never be dragged behind them. Independence in the Stoic sense is not detachment from people. It is detachment from dependency. It is freedom from the emotional strings that pull you toward validation, approval, reassurance, attention. It is the knowledge that you can feel deeply without becoming enslaved to what others feel about you. This independence is hard-won because most of us were not taught to be sovereign. We were taught to belong, to be chosen, to be enough for someone else. And in that pursuit, we often abandoned the most vital relationship of all, the one with ourselves. The Stoic returns to that relationship. It cultivates it. He honors it. He no longer outsources his worth. He no longer measures his value by how others react or what others decide. He stops waiting for Finman to be himself. When you stand independent, you do not become cold. You become clear. You stop trying to convince people. You stop trying to be understood by everyone. You stop editing yourself to fit into rooms that do not honor your presence. You realize that standing alone when necessary is better than shrinking yourself to remain accompanied. And in that independence, your emotions become clearer too. You no longer need to manipulate or perform to get your needs met. You communicate with strength. You walk away with peace. You love freely, not from lack, but from fullness. Independence is not about solitude. It is about sovereignty. It is about owning your emotional landscape so thoroughly that no one else can invade it without your consent. It is knowing that you can sit with your own thoughts and not fear them, that you can face your doubts and not dissolve in them, that you can weather rejection and still know your worth. This kind of strength is magnetic, because in a world of people chasing each other's approval, the one who does not chase is the one who draws others near. The person who stands whole becomes a mirror, not a magnet, showing others what they too are capable of becoming. There's a paradox here. The more independent you become, the deeper your connections often grow. Why? Because now you are not loving from need. You are loving from choice, from abundance, from freedom. And that is the purest form of love, the kind that does not clutch or control or collapse under uncertainty. Standing independent is a daily practice. It means taking time to be alone, to think for yourself, to check in with your own compass before asking for someone else's map. It means being proud of the life you're building, even if no one sees it yet. It means trusting that your peace is not dependent on anyone's presence or absence. So take this moment now and ask, what part of you still waits for someone else's permission to feel worthy? And what would happen if you gave yourself that permission instead? The Stoic knows this truth. A man who is free inside cannot be imprisoned by the outside. A woman who is whole within cannot be broken by what lies beyond her skin. You are already complete. Let that be your ground. Let that be your guide. Conclusion. Mastering your emotions is not a destination. It is a daily return. A return to the core of who you are. Beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the chaos that the world invites you to join. The Stoic walks a quieter path. One of presence, one of principle, one of power that does not shout. You've now walked through 10 timeless principles, 10 Stoic secrets that are not really secrets at all. They are practices, patiently waiting for you to remember them. Choosing wisely, releasing control, defining boundaries, expressing thoughtfully, building resilience, centering yourself, confronting fears, cultivating strength, embracing life, standing independent. These are not chapters of a video. They are chapters of a life. And now, it's your turn to live them. If this video offered something of value, something that helped you reflect, or feel seen, or feel stronger, then help it reach others who might be walking through their own quiet battle. Click that like, tap that subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and most of all, join the conversation below. Write about what moved you, what challenged you, what you've realized. This community is not built on perfection. It's built on shared insight, on practice, on truth, because we are not here to feel less. We are here to feel fully and respond wisely. Stay grounded, stay true, and until next time, walk with courage.